You've heard of a Jesus juke, but this is the first time you've seen a deacon juke. Deacon Richard Dale Barnes has gone and done it. Juke is coming. Enjoy that reality while you are reminded of the other reality that being a Vols fan is a terminal diagnosis that we all share. I'm Mac Williams. This is the Volatile Podcast. I'm here with Jeff Wright and Nick Duncan. Nick, how are we doing, man?
Doing pretty good. I am ready to get hurt again because if this team doesn't make them Final Four, I'm going to drive off a cliff.
Jeff, how you doing, bud?
Man, I'm doing okay. Got a little bit of a cough. Looking forward to sharing that with y'all. And other than that, I guess I'm doing okay.
Really? You got a cough? I had no idea. Yeah. Unbelievable.
You'll hear.
All right. Well, I really don't want to hear it. In latest news, we have basketball, which we led with. Juke Harris commits to Tennessee. The note here is that he could still end up in the NBA. It is possible, but it seems unlikely. Jeff, let's start with you. What do you think about this situation here? What do you think the likelihood is that we actually get Juke to campus? Go ahead and tell us what you think.
Well, I mean, there's sort of standard wisdom on this that Juke is projected to be 34th pick, something like that, getting close to second round range. And he apparently will make more money at the University of Tennessee than he would as a second round draft pick, which is crazy. There's been rumors out there that he was a $5 million price tag. I've heard some of the Volquist guys kind of poo-poo that indirectly, like, well, it's not quite as much as is reported. That just makes me think he's $5 million.
Yeah, it's like 4.6
or 4.9. It's like your guest. We don't have $4 gas. It's 3.999.
Not where I bought it today.
Yeah.
Boys, it's bad.
It's rough, bro.
I bought it for $4.17 today.
Got a steal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nick, what did you think about Juke? I mean, obviously excited. You already said it, like expect Final Four now. Do you think he's going to end up at Tennessee? I mean, Jeff already shared the common wisdom there, but like, do you think that's going to happen?
I do. I think you see more guys staying now to make the money. I think he'll end up at Tennessee, and then I think our hopes and dreams will get crushed in like the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight next year. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, boys. Like, I just feel like I don't know what would hurt me more. You know, like, I don't know if it would hurt me more to lose in the Elite Eight again, because I still think that's like a pretty good season. Now, obviously, I agree that like this team should expect to make the Final Four. This should be the team that Rick can break through with. Obviously, it's basketball. A lot of things can go right. A lot of things can go wrong. I feel like what might hurt me more and what I thought about discussing tonight was I really believe that we could end up, of course, our luck would be that he gets drafted like the 20th overall pick somehow. And like he just leaps up the board and then all of a sudden he's not at Tennessee this year anyways. I don't know if that would hurt me more or hurt me less than.
And then you lose the Elite Eight, and you think if we'd have had Juke,
exactly. I can't decide which one would hurt me more, but
you'll find out because whichever one of those things happens as a Tennessee fan is the one that will hurt you more.
Well, okay, you're still in my thought there, Nick, and we're going to monetize this. Mac, I need you to figure out what would hurt you the worst. Because as soon as you do, we're all going to go bet a significant amount of money on that specific outcome, whatever the odds are.
It will happen.
And we're going to make banks.
It is Tennessee's law.
I guess what would hurt me the most, honestly, probably, because like the news of him coming to Tennessee and then if he got drafted higher, it would kind of just be like, oh, well, like I guess he was as good as advertised and like, you know, don't blame him for going to the NBA, knowing that he kind of got drafted higher than expected. So that probably wouldn't hurt me as much because it's such a quick turnaround and we've never even seen him play in a Tennessee uniform and all the things. I think what would hurt me the most is like him having a great season, him being an elite player, him being as good as advertised, and then us still falling short. Because I think also the reason that hurts me more is just the added layer of like we've had so much time to think about them, be excited about him, prepare to watch him play, and then we get to enjoy a whole season of watching him play, just to not meet the kind of goals that we have.
Just
that
to
would
watch him tear his ACL in the SEC.
Okay, dude, you didn't have to go that far. That is ridiculous behavior. Goodness gracious.
Mac,
Oh my
on the
gosh.
odds on that, find the best odds on exactly what you just said. Us coming up short. I'm gonna hedge it with a torn ACL bet and just send it to me in DM.
You guys are sick. You guys are both sick. Oh my goodness.
No, we're just Tennessee fans, buddy.
Here's the scenario. Have y'all seen on social media that the White House apparently invited a bunch of pastors in to tell them that alien disclosure was coming and it was going to rock people's faith? And so they're getting on social media and being like, "Yeah, man, we heard about crazy stuff. It's going to be wild." Is that on your radar?
Because they never regulations, yes.
Yeah. So aliens are going to be disclosed by the White House. And since they're actually demons, one of them is going to possess Juke and take him off planet. That's what's going to happen.
Oh my gosh. This is getting dark and very metaphysical here. Like, I don't even know what to do.
You have to reach for the furthest levels of absurdity to anticipate what's going to happen when you have high hopes for a Vols team.
Yeah.
So wait, so the White House is going to disclose that there's aliens as if we haven't known this for like years?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what they say this summer. They've been building up to it for months.
Are you sure just talking about that movie with Emily Blunt?
That's part of it. That's predictive programming, bro. But that's not what we're here to talk about. But
two people have read Lewis's Ransom trilogy, and it shows.
Yeah, or Galatians, like an angel coming to preach the gospel to you.
Yeah, maybe. Appearing as an angel of light.
Yep.
Oh, man.
That's enough.
You signed on to watch the Volatile podcast. We're happy to talk about other things, and we will as we see fit. But,
obviously,
that's a given. But we will get back to the point here, which is the next latest news here is baseball. So, Tennessee baseball looked like pretty much garbage this weekend against Kentucky. They dropped the weekend series 2-1. They salvaged it on Sunday with a win. The Vols beat the Fighting Nick Duncans last night. Presbyterian in the midweek 8-1.
I knew there was going to be a joke about me when I saw that we played Presbyterian this week. I knew there was going to be a joke about me.
Did it get rained on?
Easy. It's too easy.
I thought it would be Jeff saying the Fighting Headwetters or something like that.
Well, that's why I'm wondering if they got rained on. I didn't know a baptism would break out.
I appreciate that you called it a baptism.
Give him an inch, will take a mile. Oh, man. And then the last bit of news here, Tennessee is hosting Texas this weekend in, safe to say, the biggest series of the season. I think so. So,
yeah, definitely, I would say.
Yeah. All right. Well, do we have anything else to talk about with basketball other than Juke? Y'all have anything else you want to talk about that situation before we just dive into baseball head first?
I'd seen that the basketball portal class had jumped to number 2. I don't know who in the world has number 1. But let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Are we getting Rick Barnes last season one way or the other? Or do you think this old man just keeps riding it out as long as they've got a bag for him?
I thought we were done with Zakai, and then I thought we were done, I thought we were done at so many different points. Like at this point, I think as long as he has the resources that he, wants and he gets what he asked for from Danny White and he's in good health and he's still enjoying it, I don't see an end in sight necessarily. But to your point, I do think this feels like a little more aggressive, like all in than it has in past seasons.
Yeah, that to me, it feels like that it seems like he's been doing this, but it's more aggressive this time. So I just think that he just knows it can't go on forever. Obviously, like Rick knows he's mortal. He knows that he, can't coach probably until he's 80. So he's probably got how old is Reverend Barnes?
He's got to be pushing 70, right?
I would imagine his age starts with a 7 at this point.
That's what I would think too. I'm gonna look real quick.
Oh, I pulled it up. Shocker, he's 57.
Really?
You're kidding. 57.
Yeah, I'm definitely kidding, guys.
He's 71. Okay.
Okay. I was like, wait, what?
I was like, he's the
57?
most aged 57-year-old I've ever seen. He's 71. I mean, he probably won't coach till I think 75 is a pretty good number. Like, he's probably got 4 or 5 more seasons of, like, best he could do passion is my guess. And so he probably just knows that every season is running out of time. And as long as they're willing to give him whatever, then he's probably like, I'll just do anything I can to try to break through. So,
did y'all listen to him on the Lowdown podcast?
No.
Yeah, he had a long interview with Chris Lowe on their podcast, and it was good. He does not sound like a guy who's thinking anything other than, I'm going to be here forever, And that, again, he's earned the right to do that. It's just kind of startling. He, Lowe kind of leads in with a bunch of people in his generation and younger decided they hated this era and got out. And Rick sounds like, at one point he says, yeah, you just adjust to what the rules are. And you compete under the rules. And I'm like, that dude's going to be here forever.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely rare. He's definitely a rare case. Like most of the guys, it ran Nick Saban out of the game. And so.
Jay Wright.
Yep.
Him and Izzo have managed to find the wherewithal to stay in. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, he was saying things a couple months ago, right after the season, like it's the easiest era of basketball to recruit in, and that's probably true because he's just getting whatever he wants. So I think if he was at a school where he wasn't getting what seems like unlimited resources, that he might pull the trigger or have pulled the trigger already. But he's been given freedom to kind of build whatever team he wants every year. So let's keep chasing it.
Yeah, the same interview, Chris Lowe, I don't mean to be crass, but he basically makes Rick sound like a Tinder coach. Like he said, he doesn't want to go sit in gyms. He doesn't want to travel to go sit in gyms. He just pulls up on his phone, what's your number? And let's get together. And I guess I can see why that would be. Again, it's what we do on video games. Rick just gets to do it in real life.
Yep. I appreciate the brutal honesty of like, it's just pay to play. And I'm just going to pay the best players to come and try to win a championship. Like, that's the day and age we live in. If nothing else, Rick Barnes is brutally honest and always has been. So
yeah. So again, not to make this all about that other interview, but to that point, there was I think Bishop Boswell in that interview, Barnes said we wanted more people who were able to create their own offense, and Bishop Boswell put it on Instagram with a laughing emoji. But the real salty part of the interview, and it's not Barnes doing anything like self-consciously controversial. He said, we had some guys, they wanted a price we didn't think they were worth, and so we moved on. And it's just straight up dollars and cents. He also then goes on to talk about Josiah Jordan James telling Dwayne Brown when he came back that I guess Triple J said, we knew you were one of us. And how, Barnes like, I really want people to know they have a home. These kids who transfer are going to have a home. So I don't know how he reconciles the two. Like, oh, you want to be here, Jalen Carey? I'll give you 50 cents and Chick-fil-A gift card. And if not, peace. But I really want people to know they've always got a home if they stay. It's a strange
He's like Michael Corleone in The Godfather when he finally makes the turn. He's like, it's not personal, Sonny. It's strictly business.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is that Rick Barnes is basically going to be Sister Jean. We're going to wheel him out in a wheelchair. He's just going to be coaching as like 100-year-old dude. And then also he's like Jeremy Pruitt because he's handing out Chick-fil-A gift cards. So, two Vol greats right there. Sister Jean and Jeremy
Jalen Carey's market
made a Final Four. Sister Jean made a Final Four.
You missed that Jalen Carey's market value is a Chick-fil-A gift card and $50. I just want to get that.
All I heard was Jeremy Pruitt handing out Chick-fil-A bags.
I called around and I said, hey, what did Jalen Carey look like he was going to command on the open market? And that's what I found out.
It's not true. You can't even say it seriously. It's not true. Oh, my God.
You're right. I'd probably hold back the Chick-fil-A gift card. He doesn't need them.
Jalen Carey's going to make more money in the season than you're going to make in your lifetime.
That's true. And we live in a broken world. Same physique, different pay scale. I don't get
It's got a little height on you there, fella.
Does it? Does it? It didn't help him score in the paint.
Oh, my
We're
grief.
gonna have to pull up the Iowa State film for you again. Let you watch that Sweet 16 game.
Everybody has one best game.
His just came at
I'll
one of the
quit.
most important times
I'll
of the season,
quit.
so.
I've already caused the podcast to be rambling. I'll stop. He sucks.
Well, the baseball team, they traveled to Kentucky this past weekend, and it did not go well. We dropped the Friday night game 9-2. Guys, this game just was not even close, really. Tennessee looked like they didn't even show up. It was my sons had a T-ball game that night, so when I got home and turned the game on, it was already like 7-0, and I was like, "What in the friggin' world is going on?"
It was fairly close to being run ruled twice.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the game was it was horrible. I mean, Tennessee did not even look like they belonged on the field with Kentucky at all, which is crazy because Kentucky had won literally only one SEC series up to that point.
Yeah, they lost like 6 in a row.
Yeah. Now I had told Jeff between our common opponents, we looked at this last week. Kentucky actually had a better record against our common opponents than we did. And it's because, yes, Kentucky hasn't won any series, but they haven't gotten swept all season. No one has swept them. And so the fact that they were able to, win at least a game in all those series actually made their record end up looking better than ours. And they played like the better team. I mean, all weekend, even on the Sunday game, on the Sunday game that we won, they still, they were in there fighting. I mean, it was the final score of that game was 10-9. So it wasn't like
we were up big and they about came back.
Yeah. So yeah, just an ugly series. Saturday game, the final score was 12-2. So even worse. Vol scored 2 in both those games. So really, I think the biggest talking points. I mean, frankly, they're just not too much different than what we've said. The biggest issues are still hitting, generally speaking, as far as like approach and hitting with runners in scoring position. Like these are still the biggest themes coming out of the weekend. I think the thing that we can talk about and that we should talk about, though, is the pitching rotation because that looked different this weekend. It obviously had some sort of effect. So let's talk about what Elander did with the rotation. So Jeff and I talked last week, and we were kind of making predictions on who we thought would start which games. Jeff's obviously been advocating for seeing Cam Appenzeller get a start on a weekend, which did not happen. But I told Jeff last week, I don't necessarily think that's a terrible idea, especially with how Landon Max not looked as good the last couple weekends. But Elander decided to go with Coons on Friday night and go with Evan Blanco on Saturday and then Landon Mack on Sunday. So what do you guys think about that? I mean, we can look at the Friday night game and say, obviously, like the hitting was ultimately the bigger problem in that game. I mean, 7-0, like you haven't even scored a run yet. Obviously, giving up 7's not like great, but it's again, we've said so many times, like it's SEC baseball. Teams are going to score 5-6 runs probably. Now on a Friday night, that shouldn't necessarily be just a given, but it is what it is. The hitting was still a huge problem. Saturday was the game to me, when I'll let you guys jump in here on this, that felt like we changed something. We moved Evan to Saturday, and it seemed like it made everything worse. What do you guys think about that? Nick, you go ahead.
Yeah. The moves made sense on paper. Baseball is a game. It's just different than every other game. And sometimes you just don't quit what's working. And so I can't really put my finger on what it was, but the rotation was worse than they've been all year in the first two games. And it just seemed like the whole team, pitching, hitting, everything, like it seemed like they went to Lexington thinking they were just going to walk the dog because Kentucky wasn't good. And I think they were just back on their heels. They weren't mentally focused. And Kentucky's just spraying it all over the place. I mean, they were just serving it up on a platter. So I don't really know what to attribute it to. It sounds pretty cliche to just say it was a lack of focus, but it really just seemed like they didn't come to play baseball. I I don't really know what else to say about it.
I was feeling good, obviously, by my indicated by my prediction last week. I don't feel like I'm ever going to make another baseball prediction. I I really don't know what to think about this team. I don't. They just seem so incredibly volatile, and I don't know how you predict anything from them. I expect Texas is going to spank that hiney, but who knows? I don't really even know how to talk about it. It was an embarrassing performance, and it was against a team you should have beat. Surely should have been competitive with. I just at this point I'm kind of giving up, man. Like maybe they get in the postseason, whatever. But it's almost like I was with the basketball team, and Barnes turned it around. So maybe Elander will do that. But I'm just kind of ready for this season to be over.
Well, if you go uh, on our record, not like our wins and losses, but just kind of our track record for this season, we should do well the next 2 weeks because we are ranked ahead in the SEC standings of Kentucky, who beat us in a series, Vanderbilt, who beat us in a series, LSU, who beat us in a series, and Missouri, who beat us in a series.
No, we beat
And
Missouri.
sorry, we beat Missouri, so that's the only one that's ranked less than us that we beat. But we also lost to we beat Ole Miss in a series. No, is that
No, we
right? Yeah,
lost Ole Miss.
we lost Ole Miss, but we beat Mississippi State in a series and Alabama
Yes.
in a series, who are both
Yes.
ranked ahead of us. So we lose to teams that on paper are worse, and we beat teams on paper we have no business beating. So maybe we win 2 series the next 2 weekends. It seriously wouldn't shock me because that's the way this team's played all year. It's like they just play to their competition. It's like if they think a team is worse than them, they lack focus. If they know they've got to grind because they're playing a really good team, it's like they're locked in. So it just won't shock me if they beat Texas 2 out of 3. I won't pick them to do that. It won't
As the
shock me.
doomer, it would shock me if we beat Texas. But I'm a doomer.
Well, I think that using that adjective, like, I agree. I think I would be shocked if we beat Texas, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's not true. I don't know. Yeah, this team is
I
so.
won't be shocked.
It's like you kind of are just conditioned to expect the opposite of what you think. I think that Texas is a better team than us. I think that Texas is going to beat us. So therefore, there's like this tiny bit of hope where it's like, well, maybe Tennessee will show up and surprise me, because that seems like what they're doing consistently is surprising me in both good ways and bad ways.
So on that front, you were pleasantly surprised against Mississippi State, right?
Yes.
When else have you been pleasantly surprised this season?
Alabama.
Okay.
And I expected us to win that series, so I guess, but like after Thursday night, I did not expect us to win both games in the doubleheader on Friday. Okay. And the fact that we bounced back and did that was surprising to me in the moment. But I would say going into that weekend, that was ultimately the result I expected, was like a 2-1, so I don't know how you want to parse that. Like if you want to say, well, it ended up beating my expectations, so it shouldn't have been a surprise. But, night to night, based on the information I had, it did change my opinion of how the weekend was going to go at the time.
Yeah. Okay.
And like outside of probably Georgia and the 2 Texas teams, this is kind of the tale of everyone in the SEC. Like I will say, as much as it's easy to be a doomer as a ball fan, like pretty much everybody has 10, 11, 12 wins. Mm-hmm. And so it really just feels like there's no one other than the 2 Texas teams in Georgia that are just elite. It feels like everybody else is just okay. And so it's just which of those teams that are just okay are going to figure out a way. And so, there's the other aspect of, I haven't watched Texas play a lot of baseball. I mean, I know they're 15-8, but they're a lock already at this point, and they're probably, they got to win probably one more to make sure they host a regional. And so, what is their mindset like? Tennessee's back's up against the wall. Is Texas locked in? Again, I don't think we're going to win that series, but I genuinely won't be shocked if we do.
We got to win 3 of 6.
Yeah, we got 11, so I think 2 is the minimum. but 3 would make you feel better in this logjam.
Yeah. Yeah. I was interested.
Oh,
What kind
real
of
quick,
skip?
Mac. I had read one guy just trying to get my head around what happened in Kentucky. I read one guy who said he thinks he'll take 4. Not to
Yeah.
doom too hard.
No. So I wanted to talk about that. This is on the same subject, so that was a good interjection there, Jeff. So we have been kind of tracking these wins since Nick kind of laid it out for us a few weeks ago. It was probably a month ago now, even. How many wins Tennessee needed to get. So according to what Nick kind of laid out for us then, two wins, which is what Nick just said, the minimum. 2 wins is what you need to get into the postseason. That's what we kind of laid out. I did hear on VolQuest this week, or not on VolQuest, on 24/7, Ben McKee said that he had talked to Kendall Rogers, who is a pretty well-known college baseball analyst guy. And Kendall Rogers said that he thought that Tennessee needed to win 3 games in the next 2 weekends, and ideally you win a series. Obviously that you necessarily have to win a series.
You have to win a series,
But you don't. Basically, what he was saying is you can't just win 2 games. So let's say we win 1 against Texas and 1 against Oklahoma, even though Nick had laid that out as this is the minimum of what you could get to make the postseason.
Yeah, that's just based on the historical precedent. Yeah,
right. Kendall Rogers seems to think in this year specifically, kind of what Nick was saying about the logjam, that because there's so many teams kind of on that. What is that? 13 wins, Nick? 13 win line.
Because 13 usually gets you in. If your 13 gets you in if your RPI is typically above like 31, and Tennessee's is. But this is like I said, this is a very unique year in the sense that everybody's kind of between like 10 and 13 wins right now.
So what Kendall Rogers said is based on the history, right? Nick said 13 wins and your RPI is a certain number. Tennessee meets that criteria. The difference is Kendall Rogers saying this year specifically, because baseball, if you don't know, comes down to like a committee selecting these teams in the postseason just like other sports do. So Kendall Rogers basically thinks, according to Ben McKee, that Tennessee would not make the postseason if they win 13 games, even though they meet the criteria Nick laid out, because they would have lost their last 3 series of the season. So on paper, they're trending down. A committee is going to overlook them when you've got some other teams who have maybe a similar record. Maybe their RPI is worse, but a similar record, and maybe they've been trending up at the end of the season. I don't know.
I think that's super fair. I think if Tennessee can't win a series against Lexington, against Kentucky, and then they go and drop their last 2, especially because Oklahoma looks way more beatable than they did a month ago. They're playing 500 baseball, so I mean, I won't be mad if they win 13 games and don't get in because they lost their last 3 series. It's really difficult to be upset with that. So,
yeah.
Well, this is something new for me since I've basically been a baseball fan since Drew Gilbert. But I was kind of blown away this week to find out that if you just play your midweek games, it's going to drop your RPI, and that's apparently a factor Tennessee has to think about now. And I'm assuming they'll keep all their games, but I heard a couple guys talking about how some teams will cancel their midweek games late in the season to avoid the RPI dip. And that just kind of blows me away, like being penalized for playing more games.
Yeah. The issue with that is now Tennessee, obviously in their weekends kind of pool play thing they did in Texas, at the beginning of the season where they played UCLA and Arizona State and I can't remember who the third team was, but when we played those teams, those were obviously quality opponents. But most other schools are scheduling a power conference team in the midweek at some point. And Tennessee hasn't had one of those teams this year in a midweek game. Even if you think back to the national championship season, Jeff, you and I went to the Tennessee versus Kansas State game. And though Kansas State wasn't necessarily a great team, they're at least still in the Big 12. They're at least still a Power 4 or whatever school. And Tennessee has none of those on their schedule this year. I do think that Tennessee should be in a position as a program where they can schedule cupcakes all season in the midweek. And that shouldn't, even if it does dip your RPI a little bit, they should be winning enough that it doesn't keep you out of the postseason.
Sure.
It shouldn't matter, but in a season where it might matter, you kind of wish you would have played at least a few more quality opponents just to say, like, hey, look, we didn't just play SEC teams and then crap teams. We also played some good teams in the midweek, too. I would love to see Tennessee play, I don't know, somebody like West Virginia or like Louisville or, just maybe a kind of more geographical team that's like in our area, but still a quality opponent.
Yeah, an ACC team maybe.
Georgia Tech, yeah.
Virginia Tech. Now we did play Virginia Tech. We did play UCLA early in those early tournaments, but a lot of people play tournaments like that early on.
Right.
So
that's the difference. Virginia Tech was the third team I couldn't remember. So yeah, you've got UCLA, Arizona State, Virginia Tech on the schedule, but other than those three in that one weekend, you have not played a power conference team outside of the SEC all year.
Yeah.
Well, apparently that was a Tony V thing, that he would like load up on a really tough opening out of conference deal, and then it's conference play and tune-up games.
Well, you never have to worry about it.
It might work for Tony V. I just don't think it's not going to serve us well this year.
Because you knew you were going to win 20 games every year in conference, so it just wasn't a big deal. And to show you how that's worked out, like Tennessee's 11-13, so they're 2 games under 500 in conference, but they're 32-17 overall. And to give you perspective, Texas is 15-8. Our opponent we're about to play, much better SEC record. They're 36-10, so they've only won 4 more ball games than we have. But their conference record is much better, which means we've done better in the midweeks. And I haven't seen Texas's opponents, but my guess is they probably have played more quality opponents than we have in the midweek.
Well, and that's the thing that's tough. Like Texas, when they schedule a non-conference quote cupcake team, they're still playing like teams like Rice and these other Texas schools that have some sort of reputation of being pretty good in baseball. And I think that just obviously comes from the fact that like Texas is such a big state. There's so many good programs that are not elite programs. Whereas like in Tennessee, the best baseball program outside of Vanderbilt and Tennessee is like who? ETSU, Tennessee Tech,
Probably
so it's
Tennessee Tech would be my guess.
And none of those programs are going to move the needle nationally like Rice would. I mean, Rice won a national championship like 20 years ago.
Rice has been to Omaha several times, and Tennessee Tech's been once. So
I don't think Tennessee Tech's been. They lost in the Supers that year.
Oh, that's right. You're right. That's even
they lost to Texas, funny enough. But yeah. So anyways, getting back to the weekend, was Sunday. I mean, I think I already know the answer to this question. I think we already covered it. But did you feel any encouragement at all about the fact that we hit the ball at least on Sunday? Like, did it help you feel any better at all?
Man, it's just more of the same. Like they just play looser when the series is over. Either when they've won to or when they've lost to. It just seems like they play more loose. I mean, I say that they beat Alabama twice in the same day after losing a game. So again, I don't know what to make of their mental focus, but I don't understand a team that can only score 4 runs against a subpar opponent that you should beat 2 days in a row and then go out and. I mean, it's starting to feel like live by the home run, die by the home run, because every weekend they talk about how many home runs Tennessee's hit. And so early on in the season, I didn't feel like this was a team that had to hit a bunch of home runs to win, but they won that game because who hit 2 home runs? Gosh.
Grinlinger?
Well, Grinlinger hit 1.
Yeah.
And then
Clark hit 2?
Levi Clark hit 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that right there was like over half of your runs on 3 swings. So
yeah. And I mean, that's I hear you for sure. And I don't think this team has to win by the home run. I get you're saying like they have to in terms of like the fact that it seems like they have to because of how the games are playing out. Obviously they have the pieces to not have to do that. But the reality is, guys, like Tennessee baseball since COVID pretty much has been a team that hits a lot of home runs, obviously, and they kind of have always been live and die by the home run. It's just that in the past years you seemed like always you thrived by them. And now this team is just not. I don't want to just like paint with a broad brush and say this is the main reason, but it just really does feel like to me this team is just immature. right? And when you're on an immature team, they do the things that we're talking about, right? They play to the level of their competition. They lose focus in the weekend. They're not able to get it together until the pressure's off. That's just reeks of immaturity to me. And we know this team is young, generally speaking. So maybe we shouldn't have been surprised by that. Maybe we should have been able to see that coming. I guess we've just been so conditioned to Tennessee having young players that are able to rise to the occasion and able to play with focus that we kind of forgot that maybe this team is not the same that we've always seen DNA wise.
Yep, it's hard to argue with anything you just said.
Yeah. So any other takeaways or talking points from the weekend on Kentucky?
Don't know what to make of this team.
It's terminal.
Yeah. I was going to say, we can't even get through a baseball segment without Jeff having to be medicated. So that tells you all you need to know right there. So
I was drinking water too.
Oh, me. Well, the Vols host Texas this weekend. It is a home series. Texas ranked number 4, and the Vols I think we all would agree, need to win at least one game because obviously if 2 wins is all you need to make the postseason for sure, then Tennessee could get swept and obviously still win the series against Oklahoma. But if you get swept against Texas, especially if what we're saying is true about this team being immature and not being able to focus, I just don't have a lot of confidence that if they don't win at least one game this weekend, that they're going to take care of business next weekend. So I think it's pretty safe to say Tennessee needs to avoid getting swept this weekend. The Sunday game is the only one that's televised. It's on ESPN2. Let's talk a little bit about the upcoming series. Nick, do you agree that Tennessee needs to win one game this weekend?
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance they'll sweep Oklahoma if they drop all 3. So if they have to win 3 games, which I agree with that take that they probably do, then that means they need to win one against Texas, because I think if they win one against Texas, it's possible that they would sweep Oklahoma. But if they beat Texas one game and then they win the first 2 against Oklahoma, I think it's possible that they go ahead and sweep. But I don't think they'll be able to handle the pressure of having to beat Oklahoma 3 days in a row if they pretty much know they have to do that.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna pitch an idea to you. So y'all talked about earlier in the year that kind of load up on Fridays, do everything you can to win Friday, right? Mm-hmm. Since we got to win one against Texas, let's just do the complete opposite. Load up on Sunday, get to the bottom of their barrel. We save all of our best stuff for Sunday. That way we come out with at least one win. Who's in?
Not me.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Not me, only because I don't think they can win with the pressure on, and they've shown when they shake the lineup, when they shake the pitching rotation up, that they are not. I don't think they're mentally tough enough to handle those kinds of shifts. So I just think they should go back to the weekends that have worked best.
It may not be clear. I knew I was proposing something ridiculous, but
hey man, with this team, I think nothing's off the table. So.
I mean, the reality is, though, Jeff, there's just no way to know. But, if you knew for sure that by saving Appenzeller and Coons for Sunday, you were going to win, then it's not the craziest idea in the world, because you're going to face, even if you only see 4 arms combined from Texas on Friday and Saturday, you're still getting most likely, obviously, their 3rd best starter and then their 3rd best bullpen arm. And so I don't think it's the dumbest idea ever, honestly, but you just can't trust this team to hit when they need to. So, yeah, okay, you save the arms for Sunday, but what happens when you're not getting the hits even when you're throwing your best arms? That's the issue, really. With that.
And it also – it's your skipper telling your team, I'm in desperation mode. I don't believe in y'all. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's impossible.
But, no, I think a kind of more modified version of this, though, is Friday night, if you're down even 1 run, if you're down at all when Coons exits the game, you don't throw Appenzeller. You have to save him, I think.
Totally agree.
there's just no reason to throw him on Friday if you're not winning. There's no reason at all. You have to save him.
Because if you bring him out and he has one of the outings like he's had the last few weeks, and he starts getting tagged, and you lose by 4, 5, 6 runs, that's demoralizing.
Yes.
But if you know you've still got him in the bank, and obviously what his potential is, then I just think it's a totally different mindset going in Saturday. I think you're totally cooked if you bring him in down and then end up losing.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I don't want to go back to the whole like Kentucky series entirely, but I do want to talk about two things we didn't talk about that I just was reminded of. The first being Arvidsson wasn't available on Friday and Saturday last week, so we didn't see him in those first two games. Now, obviously, you scored a combined 4 runs in those 2 games. You didn't score enough combined to win either game, so it wouldn't have mattered. But is there any merit to like, well, because we didn't have him, maybe just the confidence of the bullpen was down? What do you think about that?
I think it's possible because this team's not mentally tough. So I think anything can affect their mindset. So,
yeah.
It just seems like we're kind of desperately trying to figure out a reason for why the team would be so awful.
Volatile. Yeah.
And it just, well, I mean, specifically with the Kentucky series, like embarrassingly bad. And I think Mac's probably at the core of it. They're immature. They don't deliver in situations they should. And I mean, I'm beating up on teenagers saying this kind of stuff, but we've just come to expect better. There's just I think there's a roster construction problem.
Yeah. And that sucks. I mean, you don't want to, I mean, we think about it in football, like you just don't want to go into a season where you're like, we're just not going to be that good. And so we'll just have to see what happens next year. Like, it just sucks to live in that reality, but more and more, it just seems like, yeah, maybe this team's just frankly, like, I think they're talented, but maybe they're just not very good at executing what they need to do to win weekend series. And they're just going to be a team that, if they make the postseason, is bounced early and they, fizzle out and the season's over. But, you hope that next year the guys that come back can grow in their maturity and are better players, and that Elander can bring in transfers or other young guys who are a little bit more more of the same makeup as the players we've seen in the past at Tennessee.
Yeah, I imagine there's a poor soul out there who builds the entirety of his sporting interest life around Tennessee. Let's say 85% of it's football. And this poor theoretical soul is looking at the football season and realizing we don't even have a quarterback, and having to go into the year like that. Can you imagine how awful that'd be?
I'm laughing because I know that you're talking about us. and so it's sad because, yeah, you're describing the three of us and Joe's fanhood entirely, and majority of Tennessee fans' fanhood entirely. So
because now all you have to hope for next season is for Tennessee to make a Final Four, and you just know they're not going to. So even though basketball is just looking totally great, it's just such a black pill.
So let me throw this to you, since I've been Mr.
This podcast is going to be great this next year. It's going to be so fun.
I've been taking this off the rails. Do you think the 85% of the pie chart is right? Like, football's 85% of it?
I'd probably say 80, but yeah, it's high.
So 80 then. And then does baseball and basketball split the other 20% evenly?
I don't think so. If you're trying to do like a general, like what's
a general fan, probably for me and Mac,
box and whisker plot of like where do Tennessee fans fall in this? Yeah, I don't think I would think basketball is more like 15 to 20%, and then baseball is like 5 to 10 at best. And I would say that Nick and I, probably even more than you, Jeff, but correct me if I'm wrong, care about baseball more than the average fan.
Yeah, I think that's true. And definitely, like, I do really love it in a way I never thought I would, but not compared to y'all. So let me ask you this, guys. We get the same baseball results we got this year. It stays the exact same way. So, and just to be charitable, we make the postseason, but we're 1 and out in the postseason. Okay? So that's baseball next year. Tennessee gets bowl eligible, but they end up back in the Music City Bowl. But Rick Barnes wins a natty.
Oh my gosh!
I'd take that.
You sign up for it right now?
Yeah,
I'd sign up for it right now.
I would do.
I don't even think twice.
Yeah.
I don't even think twice because that just gives now you're just like. It just feels like house money. Like, okay, well, football and baseball can't get worse, but at least basketball won a national championship.
And it's a natty, right? You hang your hat on a natty for a long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I would get the added benefit of saying that coaches that Danny White doesn't hire win natties at Tennessee.
Absolutely. There you go.
I mean, think about what 2024 did to the morale of Tennessee fans, right? Like, Tennessee wins a baseball national championship. No one – I mean, you look across the Tennessee fans as a whole, I would say less than 10% of Tennessee fans genuinely cared about the Tennessee baseball program. And in 2024, the buy-in for that team and that program because of what they did was higher than it's ever been for Tennessee baseball. And that just rolled right on into football where you beat Alabama for the first time in 16 years. And it's 2024 was just seriously probably the height of my Tennessee fandom as because I wasn't conscious in 1998 to really know how good that feeling was. So I think a basketball national championship in 2027 was when that would occur. I would be over the moon about that.
All right, so let me make it harder then, since I think we're all kind of agreed on that. What if they just make the Final Four? Do you sign up for it?
It's still the 2026 football team makes a bowl game,
and the baseball team is the same exact as this year.
Yep.
I think I still sign up for it.
Probably.
But that's not because that's how excited a Final Four makes me. It's more because that's how low my expectations are for football. That if they were bowl eligible and made the Music City Bowl, then I'm probably thinking, yeah, that happened about as I expected it to. And then basketball met the expectations as well, which the expectations are higher this year. I would say they met expectations in the 25-26 season.
All right, let me propose one. Which one do you take? Basketball makes a Final Four, but they don't win a natty. Football team's terrible. Let's just assume. There's no scenario in which they're good.
Okay.
Basketball makes a Final Four, or Tennessee makes it to Omaha but doesn't win the natty. Which one do you take?
This season or next season?
Next season.
I'd take the basketball Final Four.
Okay. I probably would.
Yeah, I guess I would too. I mean, as much as I don't love him, it would be cool to see Rick Barnes get to do that.
Yeah. Well, and I said at the beginning of the baseball season, I think of Tennessee as a national championship program now in baseball. Like it or I don't that's just how I think.
Bad news for you, buddy. I got bad news.
That's how I think of them. So to me, if Tennessee baseball, they make it to Omaha, that's great. I'm thinking Tennessee should be the type of team that's doing that regularly now. And so not winning at all in Omaha doesn't mean as much to me as making a Final Four, which we had never literally ever done, would mean to me.
Well, in the scenario where Tennessee's just as bad as it is next year as it is this year, maybe the Giants will also be as terrible as they are next year as it is this year, and then Vitello can just come back.
That would be awesome.
I have a major obstacle for you on that. Danny White.
Well, let's see how bad Vitello gets run out of San Francisco if they're this as bad next year as they are this year.
So the scenario I pitched that was
Danny White even might start looking good when you're that bad.
Or we just get rid of Danny White.
Yeah, but we're talking about things that are possible.
I think it's pretty possible that we have what the kind of the lower version. I told you, Rick makes a Final Four. Baseball's not substantially better. Football's bad. And y'all think I am negative Nancy right now? Boys, we've got a miserable run of podcasts ahead of us next year.
I will say this. The only way Danny White gets fired, and I've said this for a long time, the only way he gets fired is if Josh Heupel gets fired. And the only way Josh Heupel gets fired this year is probably not being bowl eligible, which is possible.
I mean, honestly, I think that as long as Donde Plowman's there, he's going to be there, which is depressing.
Unless Randy Boyd, we, just get sick of it.
Yeah. Oh, boys. Sorry. I really didn't mean to.
No,
Yeah.
It's
that
all
was good.
right.
It's all good stuff. I think it's all good stuff. All right, so yeah, Texas. Let's just go ahead and jump into like what do you expect this weekend? So I think we're probably all in agreement that we think that Coons is going to throw Friday. Do you think Elander's going to switch Mack and Blanco again, or is he just going to leave Blanco at this point?
I believe
Mm,
it, wouldn't you? I mean, you keep bouncing back and forth, and you don't even have the stability of your normal rotation. Like, you made a move, dude. It was a pretty big deal. Uh, I don't know if you keep jerking guys around. I think that just eats up confidence.
that's my big thing at this point too, Jeff. That's the exact point I would make. Is like, I think you just show your guys that you're not confident that they can get it done. I think you just go in there and say, we're not changing anything, and we're going to go win a series. Like, I don't think they're going to win a series, but I don't think that's things that should be spoken in the Tennessee locker room. Like, I
We're
think
not
Josh.
changing anything, guys, and we're going out on that field, and we're getting run ruled 2 out of 3 times.
Yeah.
Who's with me? Give your offer to Tennessee.
Hey, if they get run ruled twice, but they win one of those games, I'll probably take it.
And nobody said that, sunshine.
Well, Texas has not lost a series, has only lost one series all year, and that was the
Awesome.
But they have also only swept one series all year. So I think that we're going to win, and I think we'll win Saturday. One game on Saturday. Yep, one game on Saturday.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with y'all that you made the change. At this point, you have to stick with Coons Friday, Blanco Saturday, Mack Sunday. I think switching them back now, because it's not like Mack was a world beater on Sunday. I think he did have the best weekend of any of the starters, but it's not like he was amazing. So I guess you just leave that. But
He honestly wasn't that much better than the other guys.
No, I agree. I think it really comes down to more about how you use the bullpen. And so, I'm sorry. The second thing that we got way off, but I brought up the Arvidsson thing. The second thing I was going to bring up earlier was how Elander used Braden Krenzel last weekend, and Braden Krenzel just literally seems like he is not able to throw in an SEC series anymore.
Yep.
So I think at this point, you basically can't use him at all. You can't use Braden Krenzel at all. And do you guys agree with that or no? Like,
I totally agree. I think that he's been good in midweeks. I think they're hopeful he could find some of that magic back he had last year. And I just think it's way too late in the season, too much on the line to be doing that mess.
Yeah. I mean, again, if you're down like a handful of runs on Friday or Saturday, and
if you're getting run ruled and you just need to throw a guy out there, then sure. But
yeah,
I said it's great to be a Tennessee ball. I said it's great.
And what's sad is like, yeah, okay, you're not going to throw Krenzel because he's been so bad, but gosh, like it's not like there's that many guys that are a ton like better. Like Brady Frederick has not been great, and I think Mark.
Dude, I mean, Appenzell and Arvidsson are the only two guys that are really good bullpen pitchers, and they've got tagged at times. Like you just don't know what you're going to get from them.
Yeah.
So
who's the third best arm out of the bullpen? You think, Nick?
Rudy, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's probably Bo Rudy, but obviously they want to use him as a closer. There's nothing to close. You don't have the lead, right? So is there any do you think they should throw him earlier? I guess.
I think it's just situational. I think it depends. I think they definitely should not just sit on him hoping that they'll use him as a closer in one game. I mean, I think if so for instance, I don't think this will happen, but in a scenario where you're up, let's say you're up 6-1, this will not happen. Let's say you're up 6-1 on Friday. Like I could, and you've got, and let's say that Coons goes like 7 1/3. So you got to find, I know, like I said, this is not realistic, but I'm trying to think of a scenario in which I would bring in Bo Rudy.
Are the unicorns pitch hitting at this point?
Let's say the aliens have been disclosed, and one of them has, like the Monstars, has sucked the talent out of the Texas Longhorns.
We have the Roadrunner pinch running.
Yeah, correct. His name's Jay Abernathy. And in a scenario where you're up a decent amount on a Friday and you got to win a game, but you think maybe I don't have to burn Appenzeller, or maybe I can get 5 outs without giving up 5 runs. Maybe you throw Rudy.
Maybe. That's scary. I'm like, to me, in that scenario, I'm thinking, okay, Coons went 7 to third. That's way better than I was expecting. We're putting in Appy in the 8th and riding him if he looks good into the 9th. And if he doesn't, we're going straight to Rudy. If you have a lead at all,
I agree. I guess I'm just trying to. I think there is a scenario in which I would use him. Maybe you throw. Maybe Appy comes in on Friday and you're up 2, but you end up losing. Maybe he loses the game. Maybe he blows it, and then maybe you don't have him, and or maybe it's on Sunday, Friday and Saturday. You lost them both. You've already thrown Appenzeller and RV. Maybe Rudy comes in then. You don't wait to try to. You don't bring in anyone else.
Seems like a realistic. That seems like something I would sign up for. It's like
So I think he's the third best arm. So I think if the other 2 guys have been used, regardless of the score, if you're ahead, Rudy's probably the guy I bring in and let him go as long as I can.
Yeah, I think so too. And gosh, when Rudy comes in that scenario, it's like you really hope he goes the whole way because you're left with Biotto and Frederick and
drop off his feet.
It's not good. I mean, I think I was going to ask you this, Nick, but I bet you have the same answer. Behind Bo Rudy is Biotto the next best arm, I guess. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
But golly, what a cliff. What a cliff that is.
Right.
That's a chasm.
You guys are already off in fantasy land. Here's what I'm saying. I'm saying Nolan Ryan still has his COVID year of eligibility. And he's sitting there waiting to get a signing.
Golly.
Can you imagine a Tennessee baseball team where you're like, I would just love to have Kirby back? Where's Kirby at?
He was the situation.
Dude, and he's was he the 6th or 7th best bullpen arm? Probably on some of those teams.
I mean, talent-wise, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But I mean, he threw a lot better than his talent because he was so niche. They used him in very specific situations.
He would be like your 2nd or 3rd best guy on this team.
Yeah, I mean, easily. Not even close.
This bullpen is
sleeping on the Nolan Ryan option.
Yeah,
Alabama can do it for 1 game.
Maybe we'll bring Bediako in out of the bullpen.
There you go.
So, Nick, you said you think Tennessee will win Saturday, right? That's the game you think we'll win?
Yeah, I think we'll win 1. I think we win Saturday. Texas has lost a lot of Saturday games. So I don't know what that means. I'm just going with trends. So
okay. Yeah, I think there's no chance Tennessee wins Friday, even though, and that's scary because it's like if you throw Coons and Appy, it's like you really got to win Friday if you're throwing those 2. So honestly, best case scenario, obviously win Friday, but assuming that's not possible, best case scenario is you're not even up Friday. I would rather lose comfortably, on Friday and not even have to have the thought of do we use Appy or not? I don't even want that to be on the table for Elander. Either you're winning and it's okay, we have to throw him because we're going to try and win, or you're just down 5 and it's well, there's no reason to use him. That's better than being even a 1-run game, right?
Yep, you're totally right, and I hate pulling for this Tennessee team where this is the conversation. But you're totally right. You're totally right.
Yeah. It's sad. It's a sad reality. Jeff, do you think we're going to win a game, man?
I do not. I think we go into Oklahoma with both hands firmly around our throats and wilt under the pressure of it.
Well, one thing we haven't talked about, so if let's say Tennessee only gets 2 wins, take them however you want them. Oklahoma, we win 2 against Oklahoma. You win 1 game in each series, whatever you want. Tennessee has to make a run in the SEC tournament at that point, right? Like they got to win some games to get to make sure they get in.
Probably. Yeah, because if they don't, like I'm looking at the teams ahead of us. Like if we win 13, right now Florida, Arkansas, and Bama are all sitting at 13. So they obviously are. Some of those teams are going to have upward mobility. I don't think probably any of those teams are about to get swept twice in a row, and obviously some of these teams will be playing each other. And then the 12-win teams are Ole Miss and Oklahoma. So if you only win like one against Oklahoma, that means they're probably now sitting like 14, 15 wins. You're still probably just like the 10th best team in the SEC at that point, which is about what they are now. So, yeah, I definitely think you have to make a run if you only win a couple games.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And it just feels impossible. Like, I don't think this team can make an SEC tournament run because our bullpen's so weak.
They don't have enough pitching. Yeah. Yeah, they don't have enough pitching.
I mean,
if they're going to make the postseason, they're going to have to win one against Texas, and they're going to have to beat Oklahoma twice.
Yeah, because then even if you lose, even if you lose, I think Tennessee's capable and probably should need to win one game in the SEC tournament no matter what. Probably at this point. So let's say you win the first game in the SEC tournament, you lose the second game. If you've won 3 games, so if you're at 14 instead of 13 and you win an SEC tournament game, I think they're probably a lock, right?
I think so, and they should be playing a team that's not very good because they won't be getting up. They won't be getting it. No, Kentucky has got the same record as us. They'll be playing. Assuming this scenario happens where we beat Texas once and Oklahoma twice, they're probably at the top, near the top of the teams that aren't getting a bye, which means they're probably going to play like South Carolina or Missouri, who are both horribly bad. But, we'll probably play their competition. So, I mean, anyone can beat you. I mean, South Carolina beat Texas once. So,
yeah. Well, if it's any comfort to you, Jeff, if the season ended today, Tennessee would be playing Vanderbilt in the first round of the SEC tournament.
Awesome. That is great. That's exciting.
Revenge.
Yeah. So, and we lost to Vanderbilt on 3 walk-offs. It's not like this team can't play with Vanderbilt. It's just like
Vanderbilt has a worse record than us in the SEC, as bad as we are.
Yeah, they're not that good. They just had our number that weekend. So I'd like to think that Tennessee could rise to the occasion and win that game.
Would you like to think that?
Another thing that's kind of crazy and scary to think about, boys, is so the SEC tournament starts on Tuesday. Tennessee's most likely not going to have a bye. So you pitch Coons on Friday against Oklahoma. He's going to be on crazy short rest if you throw him on Tuesday against Vanderbilt. I wouldn't be surprised if Verlander doesn't even throw him. So now you've got to win a game with the bullpen arm on Tuesday. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Warm it up, Lane Brown. Let's go.
Oh my God, you're joking, but that might be what happens. And I mean, seriously,
that may be a scenario that we're looking at.
Lose.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
I'm still maintaining we're going to make the postseason. So
I'm maintaining you're going to get hurt.
He's already hurt. Don't worry. Oh gosh, yeah. Basically, listener and everyone that's following along with this, Tennessee really does need to win 3 games in the last 6. They really need to win 3 SEC games. I mean, you're putting yourself in a almost impossible situation if you only win 2. I think.
And I need to hit the Powerball and wake up 30 pounds lighter tomorrow. Let's see if it happens. Let's see. There's always hope. You never know. I'm volatile.
This team has shown that they can beat good teams.
And the lottery has shown that people win it.
Yeah. Well, if you believe that Mississippi State's a good team, which we do, Jeff, are you still where are you at with Mississippi State?
I just don't know that I believe we beat good teams or bad teams now. It's now like, okay, we don't get to do either. That's fine. We're going to show Presbyterian the business.
Mississippi State is 100% a good team. They have the second best overall record in the SEC, and they're 14-10. So
that sounds objectively true.
It is true. That's absolutely true. They're a good baseball team.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're a good baseball team, and you swept them on the road. So, but that just further points to I have no idea. I don't know what's going on with this team. They they can sweep great teams on the road. They also can lose to Kentucky. So I don't understand.
And that Tennessee swept them is the best counter argument to the objective reality that they're a good team. I just want to note that.
Fair. I mean, fair point. But
They also are about 4 inches away from having beat the best team in the SEC in a series, which is Georgia.
that's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
and
That's
that exact same thing really helped their football team too, man. It was really something to build on.
gosh. Seriously.
It's a totally different game. You're not going to black pill me on it. I am trying to look objectively at this team and not just assume my cancer is going to kill me.
Good luck.
Okay.
Look, I want you to be right. I just at this point I'm checked out on any positive hopes. Like I think Elander needs a full
Really? I
off
couldn't
season
tell that
to
by your
rebuild his
demeanor.
roster, and let's see what he does when he's had a full off season.
Yep. I will do that after I know that we cannot make a postseason. The door's still open.
This is one of those times where I would love to be wrong, rooting to be wrong.
That's a common place that we find ourselves in as Tennessee fans. So it's an unfortunate.
It's true.
reality.
It's true.
Yeah. All right, Nick, tell them where they can find us.
You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on X at volatile_1998. And you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the 2 most common places where folks listen to their podcasts. And, this would be you've got a broad swath here. You got hypotheticals that we've gone through this week, mini hypotheticals. You've got, alien disclosure in this episode. There's just a lot to offer from this episode. You've got Jeff being so sad. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, if we have any doctors listen to the podcast, I'm in the market for some antidepressants.
Yeah.
Send us a DM. I'm willing to be off the street if some of my neighbors are listening.
He can't afford his radiation and chemotherapy for his terminal diagnosis. So if anyone's listening, he could use some help.
Well, here's another hypothetical for you. Is Jeff Wright the most handsome person you've ever seen?
That sounds like an objective fact.
Remember, it's terminal.